Herbie from Germany. Let's start with an English. Okay, plays e5. Very sensible setup from black, very principled. I'm going to go for the Botvinnik setup here with e4. c4, e4, knights here, defending each other, bishop here. I'm going to castle. And looks like he's preparing to play d5 at the right moment. He thinks the right moment is now. Okay. It is defended at the moment by the bishop and the knight. So probably, I can do that. Yeah, I can kick the bishop. Yeah, let's step up here with the king. That's where it wants to go anyway. I'm going to move the d-pawn eventually. Probably now. So this bishop has some scope. He could push his e-pawn forward. Maybe that would be interesting. Okay, but he doesn't do that. I see. He's going to come into one of these squares, c5 or b4, looking at the diagonal here where the bishop is. I was thinking maybe I could play bishop here, but I don't think that works. I mean, after I put the pawn here and I put the bishop here in response to knight to c5, but he has three pieces attacking the three pieces attacking that square. Do I want to do this? It kind of loosens the king position, but relieves some of the pressure on e4. I could put my knight on g3. I guess that would kind of shield the king. So he drops back there. Okay. So now I've got this covered. Still need to get my bishop into the game. Let's go ahead and kick that first. Yep, has to go back. So I could pluck a knight here. Let's just open up the diagonal for the bishop and maybe pin his knight. It's not the way this usually goes, but as long as he's giving me a pawn, I'll hold on to it for a while. So he's defending there and putting the queen on this good diagonal. Also, he's unpinned his knight in advance of the pin. I might just trade my bishop for his knight, and then I could put a knight here. He could play f5, though. So if I put a knight on e4 to block the e5 pawn, so I don't have to worry about that diagonal, then he could move this knight out of the way and push the f5 pawn, or trade. Let's see, so I can take here. can take the knight and then take. Do it like this. I'll take the knight. And I can put this knight here. And when the bishop retreats, I can grab another pawn over here by his king. I guess I can always push this pawn forward to shut the diagonal too, now that I have a knight here. Maybe, but if he plays here, I don't know what my answer is to that yet. If I can, yeah, if I can get a square here for my knight. Okay, if I harass the queen first, I can throw that in. But this pawn is not under fire, so I could go here with the knight. Looking at this square. That's why maybe it's better not to push the pawn. And then he's still hanging, so yeah, he can push those pawns forward, but this is not helping him. He's just desperately trying to open this diagonal, but I think I can keep it closed now. Feeling pretty good about this. I could push here and attack his queen. Let's take here first. If he wants to take my knight, I can take back, even with the bishop. So he decided to take with the bishop himself. So I can bring my queen out now. I have this fork now. Let's do the fork. Before, his bishop was guarding that square. He had the bishop here, and then he had it here. But when he retreated back to here, then that fork opened up. Okay, so we'll continue to blockade these pawns here. Here, let's line up over here on the G file then. I have this square I can park the rook on, and then I can bring the queen over. His king is on the G file, so I can maybe even triple on this file. Might be too much for him. I might finally break through. His knight is still over here. Okay, if I put my rook up here now, and he brings the bishop up, I can take it. Put the bishop here. How about if I do something like this? Just prepare to double here. So he drops the bishop back. Now I have a fork here of bishop and queen. I mean, it's just it will provoke a trade, but it might make things a little simpler for me to break through. Okay, he wants his queen to go there, I guess. He does. Okay, so now I can line up here. Let's throw in this move first, though. Yeah, I can attack on the dark squares here. He can come forward to h4. I'll play queen g1, but then I can lift up my queen. Have to defend this guy, I guess. Okay, let's bring the rook over. Hey, this is good. I'll just threaten the check here. Yeah, he doesn't really have a good move here. If the just go to the analysis board for a second. If he drops the rook back, then I take here. And if he moves the king, you can't drop the bishop back. If he moves the king, then I have a discovered check like this. So yeah, it was all over there. Anyway, let's see if we can get a rapid game here. Here we go, DE 99. Oh, look at that rating, 2102. What to play? I guess we'll go with the Sicilian. Maybe my most solid opening. The one I know the best, I mean. Okay, so we're going kind of fast, but these opening moves are standard. We can stop to think here. So I played the classical Sicilian. He played this move, which indicates he's going for the English attack, which is not the most popular line against the classical Sicilian. Normally this bishop comes out to here, or this bishop comes out to here. Those are the two best moves, or two most popular moves, and then bishop here is the third choice. So against this setup, you can play an immediate e5. You don't even need to play the a3 move because the knight's not doing a lot on this square, and you can kick it after it gets there. So he goes back. That's an interesting choice to go back there. It keeps pressure on the e-pawn. And I might just go for an early d5 here. Trade these pawns off, get to an equal position. You know, he's showing indications of castling kingside. What does he do if I play knight to? What does he do if I play knight to g4 now? Let's try it. I don't know. So I'm out of book. I am improvising. I think this knight usually goes back here, so he's got a different kind of plan in mind. Mr. DE99, Russia. Yeah, the bishop can go there. How about I offer the bishop trade then? He takes it, okay. So now it seems I can castle with no trouble, and I can still get this pawn push in if I need to. Do I? I have a good bishop there. Let's just castle. Before I castle, I should think about what happens if he takes here, attacking my knight. I can take back defending it, but then he takes the knight. I guess I have knight and bishop defending it. Okay, let's castle. Maybe you can find a way to exploit that, but I don't see it just yet. And he drops the queen there. So now it's getting to that point where I should do something about that pawn, I guess. If I put a rook here and he puts a rook here, and I push, now I have to drop the knight back. Okay, now I've got 1, 2, 3, and he's got 1, 2, 3. I need another piece, huh? Oh no, the queen is in front. So pawn takes, I push the pawn, he takes, knight takes, knight takes. He can't take with the queen because I'll take with the bishop. So I can push the pawn. I was thinking that was the case, but then I did that simple count and it didn't add up. Here, let's break through. So this should be good for for black. Should be at least equal. And I have a discovered attack on the queen threatened. My pawn in the center is defended. Looks good. Yeah, so he skips aside and attacks this pawn. So do I take the knight? Or do I push the pawn? If I push the pawn, the knight can go here, and I can't... it's defended by the queen. I could defend the pawn. It opens up this light squared diagonal, but I have the bishop on it. Yeah, I think I should do that. Okay, so he shields the c-file there with this pawn. Maybe he's also planning to play b4. But having the pawn on c3 means when I play rook c8, it's not hitting a loose pawn there. Or when I move the bishop, for example. Let's get the bishop away from its exposed position. have to think a little bit about what's the best placement for my pieces. I'm thinking maybe knight to here. It's a good square. The bishop is pretty good here, although it's purely defensive. Well, it is looking out at some of these squares, but it's mostly a defensive role. But I don't want surprise checks on that diagonal. Yeah, so he starts to maneuver his knight in. Maybe he's also going to play f5. So let's not let the knight into f5. I mean, maybe he's also planning pawn to f4. But I can take that at the moment. My queen is defended by the knight, so it's not pinned. And I'll lift my king up to get it off this light squared diagonal, and then my bishop maybe will be a little more free to roam around. Question is, how am I getting my knight to this square if I can't go through here? Is there another path to that square? Could go through the queen square, so it could go here, here, here. He just went back. Okay, I'll bring the queen over here, see if I can get that knight maneuver in. And I don't know, maybe this bishop will be, I mean, maybe the queen will be useful on that diagonal, and any potential pins on that pawn will be dealt with. Okay, I guess he's coming forward to look at this square, but I'm going to bring my king up to defend it. Actually, the knight will defend it too. Okay, he's bringing his bishop in to look at some squares there. I thought his knight was going to that square. Okay, let's bring my knight around the way I planned. You know, maybe I should have lifted my king up first, because his queen can hop into this square now. I just noticed that. Could be a bit awkward. Well, we'll see if he can find a way to exploit it. So the knight goes here and then it gets kicked. It can come back to this square. I guess that's all right. Okay, so he decided not to go for it. He's playing pretty conservatively here. Which I'm grateful for. Thank you very much. Maybe his queen didn't do all that much on this square. Maybe it just sits there. I'd have to do some weird maneuver like this to chase it away. Why there? He is offering a trade. Wasn't really my intent to trade. But if I go here, I guess he will put the bishop, or maybe the knight, put something on f3. I guess he was preparing to play knight f3. I don't know. Like that. Well, Mr. Passive. Okay, now I've got 3 pieces on that square. And if he tries to block on f3 now, I can just take it. If he puts a knight there, he can play pawn to f3, but he probably does not want that. He can do that. Yeah, that's true. Now he can kick the knight. And he's defended this pawn. So he had a plan. The bishop is defending there. So I can actually put a knight here, but then I can't ever get out. Let's see. How about if I put a bishop there? He takes the knight. I take the bishop, he takes back. That just loses a piece. Well, I can say that I've created some weaknesses and call it a day. Job well done. Yeah, now he goes there. That's the move I was expecting a while ago. But now the timing is not so good because I have bishop to f3. He could put his queen. Yeah, I was just about to say that. He could put his queen back on this diagonal. And now he's looking at this square again. So I can put my knight here. Or I can put a pawn there. Let's see, if I put the knight here, put the knight on this square, and then he kicks it with a pawn, can move the knight with check, and then block. Also, this check over here might be close to fatal. Yeah, I think this is the right way to do it. Oh, this knight check here is better because it covers the 2 dark squares and the bishop covers the 2 light squares. So we got a setup for some kind of discovery after the knight check. So he drops his knight back, yeah. Okay, I can still play the check. He takes, I'll take with the bishop. He'll have to move his rook. But, well, isn't that good for me? Is there something better? Taking here, he just takes back. I don't see it. And the time is ticking down. I guess I gotta move. So, pretty even game. Still. Maybe that's his particular style. He just plays really solid. I can put my bishop in the corner and threaten mate. He drops his bishop back. That would just be kind of a repetition. Is there something better? Hate to give up the last minor piece, or trade off the last minor piece. I could push the pawn forward. He takes, I'll take. And I've got an annoying pawn on his f3 square. But my king is exposed to an attack from the side here, so it's a bit of a risk. Opening up the e file like that. A double-sided move. But I control this square. And it goes there immediately. So we'll take first. And we'll play here. This is what I noticed, is that I can get my rook to this file. He can take a pawn over here. Yeah, so he can force trades. I can get my rook all the way down here. But it's not fatal, is it? Okay, so rook e2, queen d7 check, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, check. I move the king, he takes a pawn, and then this this pawn is defended by his rook. So we'll stop the queen from coming in with check. Maybe I'll line up like this. Can I do something like this? Or putting the queen here. Except I don't want to trade queens and have his rook come in again. We'll see what he plays. He brings the queen back, yeah. So he's kind of tempting me to bring my rook in, but then I'll play the trade again, so I can line up anyway. I can do that lineup. He decided not to grab the pawn, so I couldn't tempt him with some pawn grab. Maybe I should have put my queen here. I could have put it on that square too. Oh, but here, this is looking at this pawn. So actually it's got some points in its favor. So the king goes over to defend. Now when I go here, he can't come in with check. He takes, I take. If I take with the pawn, his rook has to go behind it. And then he's kind of tied up. It'll be, but his king can get over. His king goes here and 2 moves, and then he's taking the pawn. So the other way is queen here, queen takes, rook takes, threatening the pawn and threatening this pawn. And he can throw in a check and win a pawn. And I'll check and take, I'll take this pawn with check. This looks pretty dangerous. So we'll try it. So anyway, this maneuver had the effect of pulling his king away from defense of this pawn. That maneuver with my queen, so it was worthwhile to do that. I think he has to take. Don't know why he's, or what he's thinking about here. Maybe he's calculating the variation after the exchange. If he doesn't take my queen, I take here with check and mate. Oh, well, the queen, I guess he can just leave the queen there and play a pawn move or something, because the queen is defending that way. But then I'll trade queens and bring my rook down, and then I'm just threatening to take his rook. If he takes mine, I take back with a pawn and a queen, and if he checks, he just runs out of checks, and then I take here. Oh, he can bring his king back. Okay, so this is a way to do it. He waits and lets me take his queen. He takes back with the rook. I bring my rook down, and then he moves his rook here with check. I step forward. He grabs a pawn. Oh, he doesn't grab a pawn. He defends his pawn, and then I grab a pawn. Slightly better for me, maybe. But what else has he got? Yeah, he did that. Okay, so he's giving his king an escape square there. So his king can come out to g3 instead of going back to g1. So I take, he takes, I bring the rook down. He doesn't take. He gives me a check. I step forward, and then he can either take this pawn or bring his king forward, attacking my pawn. So I take a pawn, and he will get this one, which is kind of an eyesore. I guess I can understand why he wants to do that. Okay, I'm almost out of time. I was lost in contemplation. I need to play the variation I calculated. Need to play that one. So we're down to the increment, but we have 5 seconds of increment each move, so should be able to play the rest of the game okay. I mean, not great. I thought the check was better. He does like these passive moves, but he gets that pawn. Takes with the king. Okay, so I can take a pawn and give this one up. Let's bring my king out. Maybe that was a bad move, but gotta move quickly. Because he still had the check there where he could win some pawns. Now we've got something. I was thinking I could go after this pawn next. Yeah, it's really a pretty slight edge here, huh? So I could push. Guess he wins a pawn here. Oops. Let's attack this pawn. Maybe I should have checked first to drive his king back. Okay, let's try and get something here. Maybe I should have checked first. Yeah, I'm just not playing well. Well, it's hard to play these games fast. Hard to play them fast. If he takes with the rook, I take here. He Can't bring the king any closer because I'm guarding these squares. So I can attack that pawn, I guess. So if I go here, he can't defend that pawn, right? And his king is close to... he can defend it by taking. Well, how annoying is that? That is very annoying. Okay, I'll get this pawn, I guess, or not. Sadly, this will be a draw, I guess. Either has to let me over or he has to put his king here in front of the pawn. Well, better than losing, right? All right, stalemate. Anyway, interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.